Hollywood's golden boy, Julian Mercer, was finally moving on. A year had passed since Evelyn Thorne's tragic death, and he had found love again in Charlotte Hayes, a beautiful, sweet actress who had helped him forget. Their wedding was set to take place at Blackwood Estate, the very place where Evelyn had died. People called it disrespectful. Some called it insanity. Julian didn't care. He refused to live in the past. But the past refused to let him go. The night before the wedding, Blackwood felt different that night. The air thicker, heavier. The walls listening. Charlotte slept peacefully in the guest room, but Julian remained awake in the master suite, haunted by unease. That's when he noticed it. The wedding veil. It had been placed neatly on the vanity earlier that evening. But now, it was on the floor. Frowning, he bent to pick it up. The lace felt wrong. Wet. Sticky. A sickly metallic scent filled his nose. He turned the veil over, and nearly dropped it. Dark, glistening bloodstains covered the fabric. His stomach twisted. The room felt colder. Then he heard it. A slow, deliberate creak. His breath caught. Someone was behind him. He turned to the mirror, and his blood turned to ice. She was there. Evelyn. Her wedding dress blackened with decay, her skin pale and cracked, her once beautiful lips stretched into an unnatural smile. Her eyes, empty and soulless, bored into his. But she wasn't alone. Something moved beneath her veil. A shape, shifting. Crawling. And then, the veil lifted. Julian's stomach lurched as he saw what was underneath. Beneath the rotting lace, Evelyn's mouth gaped unnaturally wide, her jaw unhinged like a snake's. And inside her mouth, a second face, her own, but twisted, screaming, trapped within her rotting flesh. A deep, rattling whisper spilled from her lips. "You're marrying her?" Julian staggered backward. This wasn't Evelyn. It was something else. Something wearing her like a puppet. The whisper became a scream. "Did you forget me, Julian?" The lights exploded. The mirror shattered. And in the darkness, the veil wrapped around his throat. The wedding that never came. The guests arrived. The flowers were perfect. The music swelled. But Julian was missing. Charlotte, adorned in her gown, searched for him, heart pounding. The house was silent. Too silent. Then, she found the master bedroom door slightly open. Inside, a veil lay in a crumpled heap. The air was freezing. And Julian. Julian stood in front of the mirror. Whispering. "Julian," she called softly.
"Julian," she called softly. He didn't move. She stepped closer. His tuxedo was pristine, except for the deep, red stain on his chest. "Julian," she whispered again. Reaching out, she touched his shoulder, and his head lolled backward, his face, frozen in terror. His eyes, gouged out. His lips, stitched together with black thread. Charlotte's scream ripped through the house. Then, the mirror flickered, and her scream turned into a broken sob because there, reflected in the glass, Evelyn stood behind Julian, her hands, drenched in blood, holding his missing eyes. Her lips moved, but Charlotte didn't need to hear the words. She knew what Evelyn was saying. "Now, we can be together forever." The light snapped off, and the last thing Charlotte heard before the darkness swallowed her whole was wedding bells ringing. To this day, no one dares step foot in Blackwood Estate. They say if you stand outside at night, you can still hear the faint echoes of a wedding song, and if you listen closely, you'll hear a whisper, "Till death do us part," and beyond.